Hi everyone, welcome to the first ever episode of Marketing Ninja Unleashed. I'm so excited to have you here and hope you're looking forward to lots of useful marketing information to help your businesses grow and your marketing to be more effective. In the very first episode, I'm talking about where the podcast name actually came from and a little background into me and my story. I'll talk about an interesting underground ad that I saw in London. And most importantly, I share some tips to help you work out exactly who your ideal customer is. Hey everyone, I'm Reena, founder of You and Your Story, and this is my new podcast, The Marketing Ninja Unleashed. If you're wondering where the name has come from, there's a whole story behind it, but I'll get to that in a little while. Because this is my first podcast, I want to tell you a little bit about why you should be listening. So this podcast is for anybody interested in marketing, those that are currently working in marketing and want to do better, or wanting to have a career in marketing, business owners who know they need to do some marketing, and even those business owners who don't think they need to do any marketing. I'm hoping to share all the insights that I've learned over the years to help you or your businesses with this podcast. In my very first episode, I plan to tell you a little bit about me, my story, and my background, what I saw in London that made me laugh quite a bit, and the most important, useful bit of info that you can actually use in your business. So, my story. Starting with me, I'm Reena, a 5-foot Indian girl from Leicester. I've built up around 20 years of experience working in marketing, and I've been running my own marketing agency since 2021. My story randomly started with me being fired from my very first job for being too quiet. Apparently, I wasn't engaging with customers enough. For anyone that knows me, you'll be thinking, Reena, too quiet? Really? Yep, I used to be described as shy all the time. Even going all the way back to school, every single one of my school reports described me as quiet and conscientious. Since school, I've taken quite a few personality tests, and they all tell me the same thing. I'm an introvert with an eye for detail. I could very easily waffle on about being an introvert in marketing, but I want to go back to being fired for being too quiet, because that was a pivotal moment in my life. From that moment on, I was determined to make sure my shyness didn't stop me from doing anything. Being in college and being unemployed at the age of 16 was not an option. I needed stuff. So I applied for lots of jobs and got selected for an interview for a Christmas temp role in the warehouse at the old Debenhams store. At the interview, which was just 2 weeks after getting fired, I got offered a job as a customer service advisor. And here's the kicker. They thought I would be better in front of customers. You can't see my smug smile right now, but it's definitely there. It may also have been because I'm 5 foot and look deceptively weak, but I choose to believe it's because I'm generally a friendly person. And that was just the beginning. I became so much more confident throughout college, making some wonderful friends who I actually now work with. Working at Debenhams in customer services, I became fascinated with buyer behaviour, seeing how people made decisions. Whilst I was manning the fitting rooms, it was really interesting to see who people trusted to tell them that they looked great or not so great, and the number of people who asked for my honest opinion, which I think I gave, obviously very diplomatically. All of that helped me realise that I actually want to study marketing. It was about people, psychology, and buying behaviour, and it just made sense. I worked in a few marketing roles since then and got to experience the public sector and the private sector. 2 totally different worlds, but still the same principles. I won't bore you with my entire work history, but fast forward to 2025 and I've got my own podcast. How's that for confidence building? So, what's in it for you? If you're still listening, I'm pretty sure you're wondering by this point, what is in it for you? Well, I set up my business because I've always wanted to help businesses grow, because that's what marketing should be all about. It still surprises me that not many marketing agencies or marketing departments get that. So I want to show you that not all marketing agencies are the same. You might be thinking that you're too small to work with an agency, or at the stage where you're looking for a freelancer or a growth partner. Whatever stage you're at, the aim of this podcast is to get the best out of your agency if you have one, and get the most from your marketing budget with insights and tips that you can actually implement in your business. I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that I want to share what I saw in London. Here it is. I noticed something hilarious earlier and I had to share it. I love a good advert, and when I remember one, it's usually because it triggers some kind of emotion in me. So, the advert that I saw, it made me laugh, but not for the right reason, sadly. Picture this. I was just at King's Cross Underground Station, waiting for the tube, and I noticed the advert for Adobe Express. It was selling its quick and easy to create anything app, absolutely free. It was brilliant. It had a man, potentially a fellow marketer, looking incredibly smug because of the beautiful advert that he'd obviously created using Adobe Express. The poster also showed his creation, and at first glance, it looked fine. It said campaigns in a click. Brilliant. But then I took a closer look, and it didn't quite say click. It said click. The I and the L in the word click were overlapping. At first, you'd think it was a deliberate mistake, but then you look a little closer and you see the candle image that they'd used wasn't quite aligned. Someone hadn't thought about the printing of this wonderful ad. It was all of a sudden obvious that the poster sections hadn't been lined up correctly, like bad wallpaper. So the letters kind of blended themselves together. For most ads, it's not a major issue, but when you're selling the ability to create an ad, someone really should have checked the finished version, surely? The worst thing is, everything else was pretty much spot on. The message was right, the images were clear, the placement of the ad was perfect. I noticed it because it was aimed at marketers looking for a quick win. But this teeny tiny mistake at the end of their user journey, through no fault of Adobe's, makes me think twice. Can you imagine? All that hard work, all that effort that's gone into it, and the person that stuck the ad to the wall made an error that wasn't noticed. Now, it might just be me. I know I'm a critic of all things marketing, but it did make me smile and I wanted to share. I've added a link to the picture that I took in the description. I'd love to know your thoughts to see whether I am being way too harsh or not. So today's insight. In all of my years of working in marketing, the most important thing I want to share with you today is that you need to know your audience. You might have heard this several times and wonder what on earth it actually means. You know your customers, they come to you, right? But it's a little bit more than that. You need to work out who your ideal customer is. And I don't mean the customers that you currently have, the ones that you want loads more of. Grab a pen or something to type on, because I'm not about just giving general advice. You'll need to answer all of these questions to truly know who your audience is. First of all, create a list or a spreadsheet. I love a good spreadsheet. And list down all of your current customers with what they bought, what they spent, and how often they return. This will help you work out what type of customer is the most profitable and those that are loyal to you. Next, you want to pick out the best customers from that list and work out their demographics. Using that info, do some research into their hobbies, the magazines, newsletters that they like to read. Where do they like to hang out? Are they typically glued to Instagram, TikTok? Do they go out a lot? Are they constantly in a gym? Are they visiting community centres? Do they spend a lot of time in doctor surgeries? After you've got all of this information, write down the biggest thing that you think frustrates them. What bothers them? What stresses them out? When you've got all of this information, figure out how your product or your service solves their problems and tailor your messaging to be focused on your ideal audience. And most importantly, showing that you can solve their problems. I really hope this helps you work out who your ideal customers actually are and how to talk to them. If you need a hand, you know exactly where we are. At the beginning of this podcast, I said I'd tell you why it's called Marketing Ninja Unleashed. In a previous role, a lovely colleague of mine watched how I worked and said I was a bit like a ninja, listening, observing, and then making my move and knocking everyone down. And the name just sort of stuck. Thank you for listening, and well done for making it all the way to the end. I hope to see you on episode 2, where I'll be talking about a recent trip to Grantham, where I appeared on the Watkins sofa. I'll be helping you understand why automated journeys are critical, regardless of your business type, and how you can build the perfect welcome email journey. Remember, you and your story is here to make sure your story is the one the world will not forget. See you next time, everyone. Thanks for listening.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.